time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing. Like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, XL, and Huber, way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the troops. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof. You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go. Yeah, I got the juice. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing.
Nothing can stop me. No. 'Cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all.
is going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome back into the Locked In Podcast, episode 248. We are back, guys. I just want to say I apologize. Apologize for coming in later here. I had a car issue and I was late to here, but we're still going. We're not going to cancel. Just want to welcome you in after a 2-week break as we were kind of getting things ready for the podcast. So much to do, so little time. We try to do what we can to kind of streamline things, make things a little bit smoother here for the podcast. So we are working on that and just want to say welcome in. We're going to see who is going to join in here tonight. Honestly, have a really good calendar next few weeks. So tonight's guest well, first of all, the topic for tonight. You know, we had some topics that we were playing around with, and this was a big one. And honestly, these are topics that we kind of come up with, you know, me and the guys. But honestly, this is something that also you see a lot of things, a lot of content on it, but it also could be talked about more. So tonight's episode, what we have framed the topic is breaking the echo chamber, the blueprint and the building. So the blueprint being healing your inner childhood wounds and past relationship wounds so that you can show up as a stronger, healthier version of yourself for future relationships. So you got the blueprint is to fix those issues, right? To heal internally and be able to show up as your best self, whether you're a man or a woman, you're able to show up as your best self for your future partner and your children, if that's an avenue that you're looking to go, if you want children. So there's a lot of unhealed trauma. I honestly, and you know how I know is because I literally have friends that reach out to me and ask for my advice on things. Seriously, I literally have had it happen twice this week. And I'm not a therapist. I just want to make the disclaimer that I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a licensed psychiatrist, psychologist, anything like that. I've just done a lot of research in healing myself. And healing is not a linear journey. You know, we're always healing. We're healing from different things in our life. And everybody has a certain level of trauma. Some people's trauma is deeper than others. But it's really important to heal these things. If you don't heal them, you repeat cycles. And these cycles manifest by carrying into future relationships. If you have children, they carry into your children. And we're all about, at this podcast and at this network, about breaking generational curses. That is what we are about here. So we need to take time to take a step back, breathe, find out who we are, and be able to take time to heal. A lot of times when we go through, you know, a rough childhood, you know, and I can only relate to my own childhood. You know, I can hear stories from other people around me, right, who have been through. Some of them have been through very, very chaotic childhoods. I have seen it. I have literally seen how bad things can be for people, right? And there's a lot of people that are continuing to repeat cycles as they get older because they haven't taken the time to ultimately heal their past traumas. And traumas could also be past relationships. If you were in a relationship that was abusive, and I don't mean just physically putting hands on you abusive, I mean emotionally abusive, a lot of highs and lows. I don't know if you guys are familiar with intermittent reinforcement. A lot of it is, you know, you could be with a partner who's giving you just enough to keep you hooked and then pulling it back. A lot of this can also be behavior of a narcissist. However, the term narcissist, I feel like, is thrown around a lot. And for somebody to be an actual full-blown narcissist, they do typically say it's between about 5 to 10% of the population. So it's not a large number. People, I believe, can have narcissistic traits, but not be a full-blown narcissist. So intermittent reinforcement does not have to make somebody a narcissist, though. It could just mean that they have an unhealthy past as well. And what they do is they carry that on into your relationship. But when you're honestly with a healthy partner, a healthy person, where you can have healthy communication, if you're somebody who's not healed, you will really struggle to have the capacity to accept love from that person. So here's two scenarios that can play out if you do not take time to heal. One, you're probably going to choose somebody who also has unhealed trauma, right? Somebody else who's also not going to be a fully healthy partner. And what happens when you do that is this is a lot of push-pull cycle. These are where these highs and lows come in. And you could feel in the highs that you're absolutely infatuated and in love with this person. But what I can tell you is that it's not love. And we a lot of times mistake love for attachment, right? I'm going to get into all of this here tonight. What I do want to say with this topic, we are supposed to have on my brother who's down living in Orlando, Florida. He's been on a previous episode before on real estate and Christ, I believe we talked about, Christ, our journey through Christ, and we talked about real estate. His name is Ray Slemmer. I've known Ray probably going back about 20 years. Him and his wife live with their kids in Orlando, Florida. And his wife has never been on the show before, but we were supposed to try to get this to be a couples episode. So if they can join, they will. If not, that's okay. We have guests the rest of the month. And they're actually coming on to an episode at the end of this month as well. They're coming on for a real estate episode. So you guys know Rob. Rob's a part of Locked In Nation. He's a part of here. Rob LaVenture. That's one of my close brothers. Almost like a business partner here. Rob is also a realtor in Pennsylvania. He's licensed. He has a team of some people that also are licensed in New Jersey too. So Rob's going to come on, and at the end of this month, what we're going to talk about is we talked about how to secure your first investment property. So what we're going to talk about in that real estate episode is everything you need to know on whether or not you're ready to buy your first home. So a lot of people might actually be ready to buy their first home, but they're afraid to take the leap. They don't really know about a lot of the grants that are out there and stuff like that. And there's other people that may be overconfident they are ready to buy a home, but they might not actually be ready. And sometimes it just depends on the market. It depends on where you want to live. All these things factor in. But anyway, we're going to get into it. Rob will talk about kind of his knowledge, PA and Jersey market around here in the tri-state area. And Ray will talk about the Florida market, right? He's in Orlando. Him and his wife are doing really, really well building the Merenda Slemmer group out there. His wife's name is Arielle, and his last name is Slemmer. His name is Ray. But his last name is Slemmer, her last name is Merenda. So it's the Merenda Slemmer group they're building out there. They're doing a lot of big things right now. And as someone who is also inching into real estate right now, this is a topic that is very interesting to me. But I feel like a lot of people can benefit from this. So that is going to be a fantastic episode. It's going to be in about 3 weeks. In between then, we have my close brother, Nate Evans, coming on one of those weeks. He is about – the timing and the date of that is probably going to flip because he's got a lot of things going on right now, the baby on the way and stuff. So we're going to make time for that where we can in those 2 weeks. And then I have a fitness episode because summer shred is in full effect for people that are trying to get their summer body. Guest Matt Lee is going to come on, and I'm trying to get my other brother, Frank Veneziali, on here too. So 2 fitness coaches that can come on. We're going to see if we can get them in at the same time. It may be a little bit difficult, but we're really going to do that. A lot of great stuff coming the rest of this month. If Ray and Arielle can come on tonight, it would be fantastic, but we'll see what happens. With that being said, I'm still going to talk about this tonight, and if it's just me, we'll keep it relatively short. Still some really good information I want to hammer home for you guys. All right, so with that being said, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. See that little notification bell in the corner? Hit that too to turn those notifications on. We release episodes every single week related to personal growth and personal development. And like I said, this is a Christian-based podcast. We talk about a lot of different elements through personal growth, personal development, how to ultimately better yourself as an individual. So if you like that type of content, you're going to want to like, you're going to want to subscribe, and you're going to want to turn those notifications on. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, just as well, I'm assuming you're part of I am assuming you are part of the community. So thank you for that. Still, hit the like button. Really, really helps us out with the algorithm. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to comment, I can throw your comments on the screen. We can share with the audience and we can have an open discussion here tonight. If you're watching on Facebook, you can still comment in. I just can't throw your comments on the screen, but I have Facebook Monitor here, so I will still have an open dialogue and discussion with you. And if you have anything you want to add here tonight, I would love to hear your feedback. With that being said, guys, sit back, relax, enjoy the podcast. Going to get right into it and go back to my discussion here. So healing. There's two things that happen when we do not heal, either from a toxic, or it doesn't even have to be toxic, just an unhealthy past relationship, or when we don't heal from previous childhood wounds where maybe we had very inconsistent caregiving in our childhood. Now, the two things that occur from this are you could get into a relationship with someone that is probably also unhealthy, right? Because when we're with someone who's healthy, it shines a light on our wounds. So if we have not healed, if we get into a relationship with somebody who is, a secure and healthy person, it's going to kind of shine light on us. We're going to be looked at as the problem. And if you're coming from an ego perspective, sure. But if you're actually looking from the lens of, hey, this is a good thing. I've met somebody who's really, really great, but I do need to take time to heal. So it's either going to shine light on your unhealthy attachment. So you're gonna go to somebody who's also unhealthy, so you don't have to see that, or you're going to meet somebody who's a great person. And if you meet somebody that's a great person and you're also unhealed, you're probably not going to have the capacity to accept their love. It's not going to look normal to you. It's going to look foreign. It's going to look weird. And you're not really going to have the capacity to truly accept that love. So that's what I'm saying. There's either two scenarios that play out here if you don't heal. One is you're going to continue to repeat toxic cycles with somebody who's also unhealthy, or you're going to actually find somebody that's a great partner for you, but you're just not going to have the capacity to accept it in most cases. Can you heal in other relationships? It's not impossible. You can. But what I will say is, like, when you've researched that I've seen and people that I know, I don't have an exact number. I'd say probably 8 times out of 10, probably not. It's going to be difficult. Maybe 9 times out of 10. I don't really know. I don't have an exact number for you. But what I will say is it is very difficult to heal while in another relationship. If you have a very patient, loving, and supportive partner, it is possible. But if you pick somebody who's also unhealthy, no, that's not going to happen at all. And it becomes like a trauma bond. And a trauma bond is basically two people who are both unhealed, and it's not real love. It's actually attachment. There's a big difference. There's a lot of highs and lows in these types of relationships typically. That's why there's this thing, that's what I was saying earlier, this thing called intermittent reinforcement, where the one person gives you just enough and it keeps you hooked, and then they pull it back. And it kind of keeps you in a cycle where it's like there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of, this is where a lot of toxicity comes. And you'll probably have people in your life that are probably, if you have people that love you, they're probably going to be telling you this is an unhealthy situation, but you're going to be so blinded that, like, if you haven't healed, you're going to make excuses for this person. You know what I mean? A lot of times you see this a lot, right? Like, if you guys have seen people have had friends or family members that are in unhealthy relationships, I'm speaking, men or women out there. If any of you who are watching have seen this play out, right? You might voice your concern, but they brush it off. It's because they're also unhealed. And chaos looks familiar to people who are unhealed, especially if you had a tumultuous childhood. If you haven't healed those wounds, chaos looks relatively normal. That is what love looks like to you. Even though deep in your gut it might not feel normal, you might know it's not normal, it's still going to feel familiar to you, because it doesn't mean you're going to be happy, but it's going to feel familiar because it might have been how you saw in your childhood, or maybe all your past relationships have been tumultuous because of your own self-esteem and what you choose to accept. It doesn't make you a bad person. What it does do, though, is it shines a light on you that you need to be accountable to, hey, these people treated me bad. I was in unhealthy relationships, but I also put up with more than I should have. So how do we move forward from this, right? Like, how do we grow from this? And that is where I think it takes time to assess. The ways that I think you can heal is different for everybody. But what people are typically going to tell you is to go to therapy, do these things. And I will always advocate for therapy, especially for a lot of men out there, because a lot of men, it's still relatively a stigma. I'll be honest. I don't know a lot of close men in my life that do go to therapy. I know a few, but there's a lot of them that really don't. So it's definitely still stigmatized depending on the community that you're in. I would say therapy is very beneficial, but you have to be willing to go in with vulnerability. And if you can't be vulnerable right away, that's okay. I'd say, you know what I mean? It might take some time, but it's uncomfortable sometimes. It's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? When you go into therapy, especially if you know you're about to dump a lot on your therapist, it's about trusting that therapist. So therapy is definitely one way. I would say it's a very important thing to do, to go to therapy, to heal. If you truly want to heal, I think therapy is very beneficial. It doesn't mean you're a nutcase. It doesn't mean you're a psychopath. That's what I think people think, like when they hear therapy, they think, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy. You're not crazy for going to therapy. If you would have asked me probably 10 years ago, I would think that too, to be honest. So, but you're not crazy for going to therapy. It's honestly one of the healthiest things that you can do. What I would also say is just taking time to find out who you are. So pouring back into yourself. I'm a Christian, so I'm always find your community in church, find your people, find your village. Village isn't always blood. It's not always family, right? Because, that's not always what it is. But find your village, find people you can trust, that you can talk to, find your community. But just take time for you. Build healthy habits. Do the things that you need to do. And I always say some of the healthiest things you can do are you have to find what self-care looks like for you. So what are things you enjoy to do that are healthy habits, that are not things that are poisoning your body? So a big thing is you can exercise. You can hit the gym. You can get outside in nature. You can find ways to exercise and keep that. That's always going to be a positive. There's never going to be a negative about exercising, right? Could you over-exercise? Sure, but majority of the time, like, exercising is always going to be a healthy option to choose. Whether it's even just taking a walk. Take time for your exercise. Take time to keep a proper diet, eat healthy. Fuel yourself with right foods, because that's actually going to fill you with feel good chemicals too, internally. But you have to find ways to build those healthy habits, and then find out who you are too. You literally have to dive deep. If you have deep trauma, therapy is going to be one of the only ways that you're really going to be able to do it. It's going to be really hard to do it on your own. Is it impossible? No, there's people that have done it, but it's very difficult. So that's why I'm always going to advocate and say, therapy is a big thing. If you need to heal, that's what you can do. But yeah, if you don't take time to heal, if you don't take time, majority of the time, it turns out to be, you want to get into a relationship that's either going to fail quickly, or if it lasts long, it's probably going to end up toxic. It's probably going to end up unhealthy. Whether it's you who is the unhealthy one or the other person is the unhealthy one, it's really difficult to make these things work. And if it's childhood wounding, you're healing from too, like these are things, maybe you've noticed that all of your relationships have been unhealthy. And then you have to look back at your childhood and see how was the relationship between your parents or whoever your caregivers were. These are things you have to look at. But yeah, taking time to heal is just so beneficial. And like I said, healing is not linear for everybody. There are a lot of people out there that will tell you one way to heal and then other people another way. You have to really see what works for you, and you have to plug it that way. Because if you don't, this is where trauma bonds breed. And I always say, like, the way I look at it is, when you are unhealed and you are susceptible to people who are unhealthy. What I mean by that is people who are manipulative, people who are, like I said earlier, I don't like to overuse this word because I do think it is really, really played out, but narcissists. Are there narcissists? Yes. I actually have known a couple in my life that definitely have all the traits of a full-blown one. like I said, this is on typical, like average is about 5 to 6% of the population they say are actually full-blown narcissists. It's really rare. But people could have narcissistic traits, but you become more susceptible to people that have manipulative traits when you're unhealed. Let me see my switch here out. I wanted to pull up my notes real quick. I've just been going without any of my notes here. So I already went through therapy for you guys, professional therapy, big one. It's one of the biggest ones that you're going to want to do. Like I said, if you can, there's different types of therapy. So there's CBT, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. That's one of the big ones. You work with a therapist who specifically specializes in this, like what you're trying to heal. So if you're trying to heal attachment wounds from your past, whether you're overly anxious, you're avoidant, we've talked about attachment styles on this podcast before. Whether you're either or maybe you're the pendulum, you're the middle ground. If you're trying to become secure, see like different types of therapy, you work with people who specialize in that. And a lot of therapists are going to ask you about your childhood. It's one of the first things they're going to ask you as they're getting to know you. So this is a lot of the base ground. That's where we start. That's where they start, so definitely they'll start there and then they'll kind of dive into your past relationships. Support network, like I already said, whether it's a church group, whether it's just close friends, family members, whoever you can confide in. These people, if they're trusted, can provide you with emotional reassurance. They can help you instill confidence in yourself. Because a lot of times when you're in unhealthy relationships, you beat yourself up. You could really beat yourself up. I was just talking to actually somebody yesterday about this, who's going through something right now. I was in a dating stage. And it's like, I always say, I'm like, I am not a licensed therapist, but people tend to want to ask me questions on different things. And I'm like, I can only give you experience based on my experience because I am not a licensed therapist. I've just done a lot of research, and this is stuff that I've gone through. I am absolutely no professional in any way whatsoever. It's like somebody asked me a question. I'm like, I can't diagnose somebody. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm none of that. Like, it's just at the end of the day, like all you can do is do your research, look for patterns, and see, if somebody's destroying your peace or walking on eggshells, there's something unhealthy going on there. And these things are not always unfixable, but it requires self-awareness from you and the other person. You both have to have self-awareness, be like, hey, look, where are we messing up? Where can we fix things? And how can we grow? A lot of it is communication. A lot of it is a willingness to fix. And it requires two. In any loving, healthy marriage, it's two people coming together, making the intentional choice to like, hey, we're going through a rough spot. Hey, we're not treating each other well right now. Hey, how can we be better? And emotions playing right, but this is from the logical context that like, hey, I love this person and I'm going to work to show up as my best self for this person. It's like, hey, I might not be doing that right now, but I'm going to. And, here's the thing. And you follow up not up with not just words, but with actions. And that's why I always tell people, I will always tell you, love is intentional and it is a choice. It is not a feeling or an emotion. Those are highs, and that is attachment. You can be absolutely in love with somebody. You can have really good feel good, but you're not always going to be on, and your emotions aren't always going to be high for somebody. You're going to go through tough times in life where you feel like you might be in survival mode or you're struggling. Love is intentional, and it's waking up every day and going to bed each night and choosing the person that you're with. It is very intentional. I'm telling you that. So understand, because everybody always thinks it's a Disney movie or, you feel good all the time and you're just absolutely in love and it's the honeymoon stage. That is not true. And ask anybody who's been married for a very long time, can you do things to keep the spark alive? Of course. And you should date your partner. You should not stop dating your partner. And that is not what I mean by it, but there are going to be tough times. And it is choosing when not just everything's going well, but when you are also in the trenches. Who is going to ride with you? Who is going to be with you? And you have to really evaluate the partners that you choose. I know people that have been in very healthy relationships and marriages now. A couple of my buddies are married. And I know people that are not in healthy relationships. And you know what I mean? It's just, you can tell them, but they have to make the conscious choice to leave. You know what I mean? And if they don't, that's their choice. But what I will tell you is you have to build your support network. You should be going to therapy. Grounding techniques. So this is another one. This is one I actually did not mention. Mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing. And it might just sound stupid to be like, yeah, this is classic. This is what everybody says. But I'm telling you, if it just allows you to take a step back for a moment, because there's a lot of craziness going on in this life, work, responsibilities, if you have kids, children, if you're married, time to your spouse. Honestly, you need to take time to just decompress, breathe, take time. Just stepping outside of yourself for just a little bit, a few minutes can really help. Bring your focus back to the present. And this is the key word. You want to calm your nervous system. A lot of times, a lot of the unhealthy decisions we make is because our nervous system is not regulated. You want to be able to do techniques that you can honestly regulate your nervous system. So that's really important. Let me see. One second, guys. So that's important. We want to regulate our nervous system. Reconnecting with your body. This is kind of with the grounding techniques, to be honest. It's kind of like a two-parter. But this also goes into what I was saying about exercise. There's not a lot of negatives to exercise. Can you like overstrain yourself? Sure. But exercise, just getting moving, is really going to be able to bring those endorphins to you. It's going to bring positives to your body. You're going to see change. It's just something that can really be a mental release. So being able to exercise is going to be able to bring a lot of different things to you, a lot of different positives. Self-compassion and patience is another one. This is what I actually have this in my notes, and this is what I say. Healing is not a linear process. It's essential to be very patient with yourself, comparing your journey to others or where you think you should be. Say you're getting over a past relationship of where you think you should be. It's not going to be what everybody else is situation is like. So understand that everybody's situation is different. And this is a big one. And this is because I feel like when I was younger, I struggled with this a bit. I see a lot of people struggle with this. Avoid avoidance. A lot of times we suppress our emotions. We push them down and we don't want to feel, right? But when we push down our trauma, when we don't want to face even the small memories, often with a therapist, while it is natural to avoid reminders of trauma, facing the memories in small, manageable doses, often with a therapist or somebody that you really trust, because to be vulnerable with somebody, it should be with somebody you trust. Because when you're vulnerable with someone you trust, they could really utilize it against you. You got to be really careful. So that's why I say there's nothing wrong with selective vulnerability. I don't mean being selectively vulnerable to certain moments with certain people, but I'm saying just you can be fully vulnerable with certain people that you trust or a therapist. But be careful about being fully open book and vulnerable with people who might not have your best intentions in mind, because that could really set you back. But these things are effective for long-term healing. I'm telling you. Journaling, there's a lot of different things that therapists are going to give you as tools, if they're a really good therapist, to work on yourself and heal. I think one of the biggest things you could do is look at what your identity was outside of the relationship. And maybe there were certain things that you were putting off because you were in that relationship. Maybe there were certain things you didn't have the time. Pour that time back into yourself. The time that you spent with the person in the relationship, pour it back into yourself and put that time elsewhere for the better. Find out what did why are you so traumatized by losing that relationship? What needs did that person fulfill in your life? And how can you fulfill those needs on your own? See, this is when you start to dive a little bit deeper and understand, be like, okay, why did I love this person so much? What did they bring to my life? How can I meet these needs on my own? So that way I can be able to move forward with my life and heal. And when you take time to do these things, and like I said, don't let anybody judge you for how long or the setbacks or anything like that. When you take time to really do these things, and then you meet a really, really great person who you align with, you're going to be able to fully give yourself to this person. And if you meet somebody who you think you're aligned with, but maybe they're not healed too, you're not going to tolerate unhealthy behaviors. You're going to communicate with the person. You're going to tell them, hey, if you really do see like alignment with them, but they have some unhealthy behaviors, you're going to be able to sit down and just have an open conversation with them, communicate your concerns, and then see if there's anything that they'll do to like change those things. And if they're not willing to, then it's like you won't accept unhealthiness, right? You're going to walk away. This is what happens when you fully heal, whether it's past relationship trauma or childhood trauma. These are the things that happen. Guys, so let's see if any comments come in here. Yeah, so this is important though, guys. These are things that we need to do to heal. If you guys have any comments, drop them in. Like I said, Ray and Arielle might not be coming on tonight. They are coming on for a real estate episode in 3 weeks. Excited to have them on. Like I said, I've known Ray for about 2 decades. So him and his wife Arielle, they live in Florida. I was supposed to have my buddy Dante come on too, and he wasn't able to make it. That's okay. I was running late tonight anyway. I said I had some car things going on. So, hey, everything's well though, and God is good. And even though we're a little late, we're still here. We're rocking. Oh, man. We are here. Good thing is I'm pumped that we got like somewhat like actually like not as cold weather anymore. Like we're having actually some warm weather coming our way. That's a positive. You know, this winter was crazy. If any of y'all lived in the and not all my viewers are in the tri-state. Some of them are West Coast. Some of them are down Florida. If you guys lived up here, like tri-state, you guys know like this where we're based. This was a crazy winter. There was a lot of snow. See, we got some viewers in here. You guys have any like things you want to add? Maybe tips for like healing? Drop them below. Facebook, YouTube. We got you. I'll read them out loud. So important. Yeah, it's just I'll just say like when you take time to heal from personal experience, you move differently. You move differently. I'm not talking about arrogantly. I'm not talking like cocky. Just with self-esteem, like high self-esteem in yourself. You know what you'll tolerate and you know what you won't. You won't just be with somebody because you're afraid of being alone. Being alone is not a bad thing until you find your right person. It's really not. That's why you got to love who you are. Understand your God's son or daughter. And know that he loves you. You're here for a reason. There's a reason you were put here. And you may be going through some tough times. But tough times don't last forever. The decisions we make that are keeping us in certain situations, because of attachment or because of our own self-esteem or how we trust ourselves, those will keep you there. Shifting your mindset. I'm telling you, your biggest enemy is right here. I'll tell you right now, like, it's your biggest enemy, because your mind is always going to try to tell you, it's the negative self-talk that's really just going to keep you stuck. When you can get past that, that's when you can like get, understand. That's why I say therapy is so important. It can kind of rewire those pathways of that self-talk. I would say prayer, giving things to God. I am somebody who, I am not like a control freak in terms of I need to control everything in my life, but I do tend to still sometimes control things that I have no business trying to control. And some things we just need to release to God. I was just doing a devotional on this, I think it was last week. And one of the days, it was literally about that. It was just, you give it to Him, and you control what you can control, and you leave the rest to God, because you can't control everything. It's just not possible. There's certain things that are outside of your control. You can't control how other people are going to move. Everybody's got free will. And you don't want to. You don't want to control how other people move. Life has enough trouble of its own. Don't worry about the troubles of tomorrow. Focus on today. Actually, I think that's Matthew 6:24, 6:34. I don't know. It's Matthew something. There's a verse in Matthew that talks about that. Today has enough trouble of its own. There's no sense in worrying about the rest of tomorrow. Doesn't mean don't plan. Doesn't mean don't organize. But don't worry about things that are outside of your control. There's obstacles, things that get thrown your way. Focus on what you can control. That's the biggest thing. I think one of the biggest things a lot of people are worried about right now is finances in this market. A lot of people are worried. A lot of people are panicking. Yeah, something for me is, I don't know about you guys, but one of the biggest things is sometimes when your life humbles you in different ways financially, why is it that we're able to take action when it gets to a low point where we're humbled so much, right? I don't know. Guys, I'm going to wrap up in the next couple minutes. I did get on here a little late, but I am excited for the calendar coming up. I share it with you guys. Here you guys go. Here's a calendar, guys. I'm not sure if you guys can read this, but I'll zoom in a little bit. All right. So here's where we got our calendar. Right here was this episode where we're at. As you can see here, we have so these two actually might be flip-flopping. I actually am going to have to flip-flop these. So Matt cannot come on next week. Matt's going to have to come on. He's one of our fitness coaches. He's going to be able to come on the following week on the 16th. So Matt's episode is going to be pushed back a week. And then we are going to have an episode in between. I'm going to work on getting Nate on next week, so Nate Evans. Where we're going to flip these episodes. So next week, you're probably going to see something along the line of this, and it probably won't be – it might not be on Thursday, and if it is, it's definitely not going to be at our typical time slot. It's going to be early afternoon because it's about flexibility because Nate is – he's got a lot going on right now in terms of his career, with a baby on the way, a lot going on. So the topic for this one is going to be the timeline that you built in your 20s did not account for the life lessons that you have to learn on the journey. God is not building just your success. He's building your character. So Nate, who was on back in December, is going to be coming on for that episode. And then after that, it's going to be the Summer and Beyond Roadmap, building a healthy, sustainable lifestyle that will have you feeling your best, pouring energy back into you, that you can essentially pour back into your purpose and your family. And that's going to be two fitness coaches, and I'm going to have my buddy Matt Lee on here, and then I'm going to try to get my other brother Frank Veneziali on. Trying to get them both on might be a little tough, but we're going to see what we can do here. Week after that, on 423, the importance of therapy for men, breaking the stigma. We're going to have two licensed therapists coming on for that one. And then we're also going to try to get a men's guest panel for that one too. So I'm really excited for that. And then where I was talking about Ray and Arielle in this final one down. Here, let me scroll down. Episode 252 on 430. It's the readiness roadmap, everything that you'll need to know to understand if you are ready to purchase your first home, featuring two real estate professionals. Actually, we're going to have three on that one. So we're going to have my buddy Rob LaVenture, Ray Slemmer, and then his wife Arielle Merenda as well. So we'll have actually three real estate professionals on that one. I'm excited for that one. That's going to be pretty dope. We're going to be able to get that in there. So we're covering a lot of different things here. We're covering the mental piece with therapy. We're covering the financial piece on the real estate side, getting your first home. We're covering fitness with Matt and Frank, if we can get them both on at the same time. And then we have the readiness roadmap. Nate is speaking life advice in. And then we had tonight's episode. So a lot of great things coming on. April's going to be a really packed month. A lot of good content coming your way, guys. And I'm excited for that. I really am, because this is the type of stuff that I'm more passionate about, being able to put together the purpose side of it, the financial side, right? And you're able to put the fitness side in there too. And then you also put in the relationship building side, which comes from like your family, your friendships, relationships, and just your mental, right? Like spiritually, mentally, being able to kind of put that all together. I always say it's like the three parts of personal growth. It's called the trifecta of personal development. This is what we pour into. So I'm actually going to wrap this one up here tonight, guys. Like I said, we're a little late on here tonight, but we're going to end this here tonight. If you guys have any comments, you can drop them after the stream is over. We can still pour in. Just double check. See what we got here. For everyone that tuned in, I appreciate you. I know it was a 2-week hiatus, but we are here. I appreciate that. If you guys ever saw my podcast hoodie too, I got this back in November, or it was actually early November, right around my birthday. Just want to thank my friend Anna for this hoodie. She got me this hoodie back in like around my birthday, so honestly, I love it. How about the pod? All right, guys, just want to say have a great night, great weekend, and for those who celebrate, just want to say happy Easter. We'll see you back next week for episode 249, where we'll have speaker and coach Nate Evans on to talk about this topic. Fitness 2 weeks after that, therapy 3 weeks after that. So 3 weeks later, we'll have that'll be about therapy, and then within 4 weeks, we will have Ray and his wife and Rob come on to talk real estate. With that being said, guys, have a good night, great weekend. Like I said, happy Easter. We'll see you next week. Good night.